There has never been a more important time to move in a vegan direction. Whether you're ready to start, restart, or re-energize your vegan or plant-based practice, this podcast is for you. I'm Michelle Olander, life coach, vegan, ADHD matriarch, travel lover, and smoothie loather. And I know that it's the details that get in the way of your vegan journey. But I like to believe that the obstacle is always the way. So every week we meet here where I translate the tools of life coaching and Stoic philosophy. I bring you actionable tips, some laughs, interesting guests, and vegan ideas for everyone at any age. All to help you veg your best. Episode 225. When people are annoyed, you're vegan. Hi, my Veg Your Bestie. Maybe you've been at a lunch this season or at an event. Maybe you tried to order a veggie burger, or maybe you sent back the salad because there was cheese on it or anchovies. Maybe you've been at a holiday party through work or with your partner's colleagues and had to explain to the waiter that no, you don't eat shrimp or feta. And maybe you kind of got that feeling that it was putting a lot of attention on you, or the person you were with maybe started to tease you or even give you a little bit of a hard time. Maybe you casually mentioned that you're going to skip dessert or not have a spoonful of one that everyone is sharing, and someone makes it their mission to change your mind. Just so you know, if this hasn't happened to you, it probably will. And honestly, it's not about you. In the moment, it will be super hard to believe that it's not about you. But it isn't. Because it happens, well, it happens to all of us. And not just when we move in a vegan direction, but when we stop doing anything that we used to do. But definitely, including when we start to stop eating animal products routinely. So if you've made a commitment this year, or if you're leaning into a commitment to limit or eliminate the consumption of animal products, listen, it's happened to everyone. And this is episode 224, and I'm going to talk about the strategy, the skills you need to handle these moments and keep your commitment, whatever the commitment is that you've made, and to like your reasons, whether you want to eat fewer animal products or stop eating certain animal products or completely avoid them. This podcast today, this week, will help you change that habit from behind your eyes instead of the people outside your eyes. The decisions you make around what you eat, those should be your personal decisions. But if you're like most of the vegans I know, it often feels like a surprisingly large number of people have opinions about your choices and are weighing in on them many times in an unsolicited way. And in truth, it's not only the people who want to keep going out for ribs or pizza or keep things the same with you the way they used to. It can also include people who believe they know better about what you should do for your health or for your weight. It can include vegans who want you to be more consistently plant-based right away. So when people weigh in on your choices, on your orders, on your decisions, it can start to feel like these very, very, very personal choices really aren't personal at all, that they somehow affect the entire world. So today we're talking about it. We're talking about what to do when people are bummed out that you're not eating the foods they used to make for you, or that you used to make for them, or they're disappointed that you don't want to share the same things or go to the same places, and why learning to manage what comes up for you when this happens is a really, really important piece of your vegan or plant-based journey. And it's the part that so many of us neglect or forget about. whether you want to limit the animal products you eat, or you want to maybe eliminate certain categories of animal products, or whether your goal is not to consume any animals for maybe a certain day of the week or a weekend, or for January challenges like Veganuary, or just going forward, whatever your goal is, your ability to succeed with it, it has a lot less to do with willpower and a lot more to do with identifying, noticing, and changing the associations you make in your brain with eating meat, with eating dairy and eggs and fish, and with how you do those things and with whom you do those things. This is the part of the process that is so often overlooked. A lot of us have spent years consciously, and more importantly, unconsciously associating eating whatever's on offer, whatever's been offered to us, and that includes more specifically meat, dairy, eggs, fish, with creating and strengthening and maintaining certain bonds, teams, the bonds between teammates, between colleagues, between family members, between friendships. And for others of us, eating animal products is more associated with feeling confident, feeling knowledgeable around others, maybe feeling sophisticated, maybe expressing a certain level of education or refinement or world knowledge, and being more at ease in a variety of social situations or locations. And if this is an issue of any kind for you, you probably already know who the people are. You know them, right? You already know who the people are in your life who tend to give you a hard time. Or at least it feels like an unwelcome amount of energy or attention or pushback if you say that you're not going to eat meat or cheese or fish. Really? Shrimp? You don't eat shrimp? Eggs? Honestly, what could be wrong with eggs, Michelle? Come on. How about mayonnaise? That was asked the other night by a wonderful person who wants to cook for me, but just couldn't figure out why mayonnaise might be an issue. Or what if you ask whether there'll be a vegan option at the wedding that you're RSVPing to? Or you want to decline an invitation to a place that has nothing on offer for you. We already know who the people are that are going to have a problem with that. You know, I've had versions of these people in my life. Some were family, some were colleagues, but I myself was this person sometimes to other people, I think, before I began my vegan journey. And I hope I wasn't rude or unkind, but for sure, I was a little mystified and impatient and uneducated about it. Because if I try to put my mind there again, it probably seemed to me that they were being somehow inconsistent or poorly thought out with their food ideas. And you know, while I was kind of judgy about how other people were changing their rules about what they ate or didn't eat, while I was thinking about what they were doing, I could really avoid thinking about my own choices. While I think about what you should do, I don't have to look too closely at what I should do. My brain can just say, you know, Michelle, you're doing the normal thing. You're thoughtful. You're choosing intelligent things. I think they're being kind of fussy, eccentric, inconsistent. So I have been the one thinking, honestly, separate vegetables with no butter. Is butter really that big a deal? I have been that person. And there are probably also some of you who are beginning to create your vegan journey. You're leaning in more and more to vegan substitutions or whole food plant-based choices, and you get some feedback like, oh, you still eat cheese, huh? Or the equivalent. Because judgment of others, disappointment, pushback doesn't just come from meat eaters or omnivores. Yeah, vegans do it too. It's something most humans do without even noticing, without any effort. And whether we're changing how we eat for a personal health issue or for the ethical concerns of animals or out of concern for the impact that animal agriculture has on the environment and on the climate, no matter what reasons we have, there is a certain amount of skill building, a certain amount of self-education, and yes, practice that goes into your vegan or plant-based practice. You don't get it all. You don't get how to do it all right away. And that process of being a beginner, of figuring it out in all the many situations that pop up every day, all through the day, okay, it's awkward sometimes. And sometimes there are other people witnessing. And sometimes they say things. You know, I think sometimes people imagine that I'm much more confident and independent than I really am. My concern with how my choices would affect my family and my husband and my closest relationships, that was really a stumbling block for me in the months and years before I finally committed. Did I ask them? No. Did I go through with them what my concerns were or try and be proactive about it? Of course not. Of course not. I fretted about it. I held on to it like a beautifully wrapped excuse. Of course I got to think. Of course I could be vegan, but it would complicate things for them. Or it might mean an end to certain traditions. And I could handle that, but they would be so sad. So I was making vegan choices most of the time unless I got the feeling that it would be sad for them, that it would annoy them, that it would inconvenience them. And as long as I had my beautiful excuse all wrapped up with silk bows, oh, silk is not vegan? Gosh, maybe maybe I don't have to think about solutions. It's just too complicated right now. I could just be making vegan choices when I was more or less alone or not changing anything for anyone else. And while I did that, I could make the whole issue a them problem. And for sure, that's a strategy. And it is actually the strategy I suggest for people really beginning a plant-based practice in my coaching and with the Veg Your Best methodology. Start by making all the easy vegan choices. Make plant-based choices whenever it's easy, whenever it's obvious, whenever it's not a problem. Make it in all the low-stakes interpersonal environments when you know the sister-in-law, your know-it-all sister-in-law is not there. And to be fair, the know-it-all sister-in-law is probably me in most situations in my world. But you can make the easy plant-based choices when it's not the work dinner, when it's not a wedding banquet, when it's not a traditional holiday meal. That is a perfectly reasonable strategy in the beginning. So in my case, it took a while, but I finally realized that I had to figure out how to deal with it, how to deal with what I wanted when there was the possibility that the people in my life might be disappointed, might take a little pot shot, when they might make a little jab or a mocking point of view, or, when they might be disappointed when I said, no, I'm not eating that, or I'm not cooking that, or I'm not eating there. I had to figure out how to do it in a sustainable way because I didn't want to avoid situations all the time. I didn't want to avoid certain people all the time. I didn't want to avoid travel or group events all the time. And that's how I had learned to do it. When left to my own devices, I was making vegan choices almost always. And I know you. You don't want to give up on your social life. Maybe you don't want the first thing that people find out about you in a new situation is that you're asking for the vegan options. It might not be how you want to lead. And also, there was a little voice in my brain saying, what if you can't keep this up? What if you fail? You're going to make this whole thing for all these people in your life, and then maybe give up on it? What if you don't follow through? And when I recognized that fear, when I recognized that thought, that was the hint. That was the hint. That was the hint for me that, okay, maybe this is less of a them problem and way, way, way more of a me problem. Yeah, I knew I wanted not to be eating animals and animal products day to day, but I wasn't fully ready to swear off all animal products forever. I didn't even know how that looked. It took a long time for me to realize that all or nothing, forever, black or white, that binary was making things much more complicated for me than it needed to be. It made it much more complicated than it needed to be to make more compassionate choices more often, and that I could worry about forever later on. I could just concentrate on making one choice at a time. I could ask one person at a time for a vegan option that didn't seem to exist, that didn't seem to be on the menu. I could tell one person at a time that I wanted no cheese on my side of the pizza we were sharing, or else maybe I would get my own pizza we wouldn't share today. I could request one situation at a time. For example, a vegan option that wasn't on the wedding response card. I could suggest that there be a plant-based option at the next office retreat or in service, one at a time. And knowing in advance, yup, someone may roll her eyes. Someone may say no. Someone may make an exasperated comment. Someone may say yes and then get it completely wrong. And then there'll be that other awkward moment when they think they've done the right thing for you and it isn't possible for you to eat it. And none of these things is really a big deal. It's not. It's not what they are saying or feeling or doing. It's what you are thinking about it. It's what you are feeling about it. And if you find yourself saying, okay, I'm going to eat some amount of dairy, eggs, fish in this particular instance, remember, it's not because of them. It's because of you, because you've decided to, for whatever reasons you have. Now, can others make things easier or harder for you? Of course, for sure, no question. Is it easier to find vegan and plant-based choices in supermarkets and restaurants and while traveling now than 5 or 10 or 50 years ago? For sure. And in all those time frames, there were people making the best choices they could, decision by decision. Because vegan is the ideal for some of us, but it is not there to say you can't start until you have it all figured out and will never make a mistake. You figure it out by starting. So that's why I say that the downstream benefits, the ripples of beginning to make vegan choices to create a plant-based practice in this world will leave you with so many skills that you will have at the ready to bring into every aspect of your life. And quite soon, you realize that what you're choosing not to consume, it offers you so much more to choose from. And this is why I don't really encourage you that, if someone in your life isn't very supportive, if someone you know or that you socialize with or work with isn't that helpful or doesn't keep their points of view to themselves about your new choices, I don't encourage you to completely dismiss them and say, to heck with them, right? If they're not going to be in your corner or make this easier for you, then who needs them? They don't belong in your life, right? They're not a good friend. But I don't know. What are you going to do? Find a completely new peer group, a new colleague, maybe a new work group, a new partner, new kids? Find new kids before you can go vegan? Because I just want you to take it from me. You don't actually need every single person in your life to agree or change or to feel differently or to keep their opinions to themselves about your choices. It's really just another part of that all or nothing thinking that we do when we're kind of afraid to move forward. I've heard it, I've said it myself. Maybe if I blew up my marriage, quit my job, moved to an ashram, I could go vegan then. But instead, what if we could just start practicing, learning how to handle it when someone doesn't like it? What if we could just start practicing, learning how to handle it when someone's got an attitude, disappointed, annoyed, not helpful? Because this truly is a meta skill. Because, yep, it's going to feel uncomfortable at first. I still find it uncomfortable in certain situations, especially if you, like me, have been socialized to make sure everyone else is happy and organized and set and fed, and you just don't feel comfortable saying no and making a fuss and being that girl. If you're someone who's practiced putting the needs of others ahead of your own, it's going to feel uncomfortable. Just get used to that right now. It's going to feel uncomfortable. But not that uncomfortable. Not after a while. We've talked about it here so many times. Discomfort is the currency of your dreams. That's what you pay to move forward. It's the toll, right? It's the ticket you have to pay to move forward. You're going to need to feel a little bit of discomfort. It's what we need to get used to, whether we want to get better at golf or run a 5K or paint or apply for a new job, move house, anything, not just moving in a vegan direction. Knowing that feeling discomfort is just part of the process is going to help you in every aspect of your life. And that's exactly what I love so much about the work I do, because it's never just, that thing, that only applies to going vegan. You'll never use that again. So if you're someone who feels like it's a lot easier to ask for a vegan option or more fun to cook vegan when you're alone, or when so-and-so is not in the house, or at other events but not that one, or it's easier to be vegan at that house but not that house, consider that part of what's going on is wanting others to be happy with you and to be happy with your choice. And that's typically a recipe for moving in a direction that's not authentically you. And you don't need to be super strong and militant and constantly activated and ready to insist and advocate and argue. You don't need all the facts and figures and numbers and legal definitions. You don't. This is much more about learning to just be fine with the fact that people sometimes don't get it. Sometimes they don't like it. Sometimes people aren't on board, won't help, wish you wouldn't, and we wish they would. But it's okay. We can feel that, we can allow that, and we can just make the next choice we want to make. So my Veg Your Bestie, if that's something you need help with in the new year, if that's something someone you know might need help with, if it's something you want more custom strategies for in your life as you go into Veganuary or just go into next week or into tomorrow morning, coaching is the most effective way I've ever found to stop using our brain and our automatic thoughts and our old narratives about how people should be against ourselves. It's the best way I've ever found to get unstuck. And it starts, in my case, it starts with a Zoom call, a free call, video, not video, up to you. You tell me your unique personal situation and we'll come up with a strategy to support whatever it is you're trying to create. And while you think about whether coaching is for you this year, next year, get out there. Dare yourself to experience a little bit of discomfort this week or in whatever part of your life you would like to expand, and just veg your best. Veg Your Best podcast production, music, and editing by Charlie Weinshank. Thanks, Charlie. Before you go, it would mean so much to me and the Veg Your Best team if if you would hit subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, or share with someone you think might be interested. Something about algorithms, it helps bump us up a little in the rankings, and that's the best way to help others find the podcast and for us to find our audience. So, until next week, make it easy and veg your best.